Well, good morning, everyone. Thomas Montgomery here. We get together with our distribution partners most weekday mornings at this time, 8 o'clock Central. Today is, of course, Wednesday, June 1st. The beginning of the month is a fun time to be able to plan, looking ahead over the next 30 or so days, as June has, and also reflect back on the prior month, May, and to see how we did in terms of how many small businesses we helped, how much capital we helped them raise, and how you did personally for your income. Today, we're having, I guess, what you'd consider part two of the two-part training. Yesterday, we announced the June $100,000 promotion, and we're going to build off of that today. So we'll certainly revisit some of the key aspects of that, but we're going to look at it in a little bit of a different light. So I'm sharing my screen here with you, and we see our topic today is resolving a cash flow crisis in June, but let's not worry about the time frame for a moment. What you're going to see, regardless if you're a referral partner or a white label partner, what you're going to see periodically are clients that come to you and they need cash flow. They need earned income. Certainly, they want to borrow money. They want to use debt to leverage to start or grow a business. But some individuals are in a crisis situation. They don't have the money that they need to pay their bills now, let alone taking on more debt. And one of the simplest ways you can kind of vet that is so that you're talking to a prospect. You may or may not want to do this, but just for conversational sake, client comes to you, and instead of asking them how much capital they want, and they're going to say 100,000 or $250,000 or whatever, ask them how much can you afford to pay each month on new debt that you're wanting to acquire. And all of a sudden, I don't know, I can't really afford to pay any. Well, that's indicative that they're in a cash flow crisis, because we're going to talk about the 3 C's again here in a moment. And those are some crucial financial literacy concepts. So let's continue on. We'll get to the 3 C's in just a moment. So the bottom line is there are some people that are in just a flat out cash flow crisis. They don't have the money that they need. Now, how do you quantify that? Well, if they can't pay their bills on time, they're obviously in a cash flow crisis, but there may be more than just their bills. There may be other obligations or needs that they have. Well, what we have announced yesterday and continuing to discuss today is highlighted in yellow. We'll guarantee anyone, guarantee at least $100,000 in the next 30 days going through this program. Doesn't cost a penny, not selling anything, not charging anything. So let's get to the 3 C's for a moment, because if someone wants to borrow money, you can't escape the rule of the 3 C's. Now, I know for many of you, like Alfred and Ben and Bernard, Charles, Doug, Frank, Hannah, Jeanette, Jeremy, Keisha, Lon, Pierre, Samuel, Scott, Wayne, and others, we go out and teach this. We eat it, we breathe it. But I'm telling you, the average person, the average entrepreneur doesn't understand the 3 C's. And it's an amazingly simple concept, isn't it? That if you want to borrow money, you must have at least one of the 3 C's. What are the 3 C's? In no particular order: credit, which can be personal or business; capacity, commonly referred as cash flow; and collateral. Do you have to have all 3 C's? Absolutely not. There are different sources of capital that you can get with just one of those 3 C's, but you have to have at least one of the 3 C's to borrow money. Now, the more the 3 C's you have, the better, the more options you'll have, and so forth. So in a perfect world, you and I as technical advisors will work with participants to help them improve all 3 C's. That would be ideal. But do you have to have all 3 C's to get funding? Absolutely not. But we need to have at least one of the 3. So the one that we're talking about here, as it involves a cash flow crisis, is capacity. And again, commonly this is referred to as cash flow. So let's think about that for a moment. Let's say that we're kind of down on our luck and we don't have money coming in, and we want to go borrow money. If you were the lender and you had someone that came to you and said, hey, I want to borrow some money, but I don't have any ability to pay it back. That doesn't sound real good, not real promising. The risk is sky high. Now, I know that the argument is, hey, I'll get this money from the lender and I'll use it and I'll have lots of money to pay back. But that's kind of betting on the come, right? And so, in general, not exclusively true, because there are absolutely sources of capital that we use on a regular basis that we can just do self-reported income. We don't have to verify it. So it does exist. But in general, most sources of capital, the lenders care about, can you afford to pay it back? Can you afford to pay it back? And that's a problem that you and I are talking about a solution for, because there's some people that are going to come to you and they don't have the money to pay it back. They don't have the cash flow. They don't have the capacity. So this can resolve that. So back to the agenda here. So as you know, borrowing money without capacity, otherwise known as cash flow, one of the 3 C's, is difficult, but it's possible. But then we're going to have to be strong in one of the other areas, as we talked about. Do you have to have all 3 C's? No, but we need at least one of the 3. Capacity, otherwise known as cash flow, and or collateral, and or credit, and credit could be personal or business. So if you're not familiar with that, take Joseph. Joseph's one of our top white label partners. He's a licensed realtor up in Arkansas. I bet a day doesn't go by that he's not out teaching and preaching the rule of 3 C's. And I need each of you, if you're going to be a distribution partner, regardless of referral partner or white label partner, to understand the 3 C's. And so there's power that you and I have in helping people resolve their cash flow crisis. I was just on the phone with a client just before today's Zoom, and I'll leave his name out. Great guy. He's living at home with his mother as an adult male, and I'm not judging that, but it's not where he wants to be, but due to money situation he is. When he moved in, he agreed to pay mom half the rent. He's not even paying mom half the rent. Mama's not happy with son. Son's just broke. He's in a cash flow crisis. This is exactly what we plugged him into less than 30 minutes ago. And his goal is 10,000 in the next week, next 7 to 10 days. He'll absolutely get it. And I'll show you the way the numbers work. This isn't MLM, it's not network marketing, it's not a shell game, it's not pyramid. It's just leveraging our programming to help small businesses. They pay nothing up front. They get a $100,000 guarantee. You get $2,500 up front, but we'll go through the dollars in a moment. So in this gentleman's case, again, we'll leave his name out. He just needs 10,000 in the next 7 to 10 days. More than that would be great. More money over the month of June would be fine, but he just needs freaking $10,000 the next 7 to 10 days. We've got a plan to do it, and I'll show you his plan. So again, in June of 2022, now, starting today, we're running a $100,000 guarantee for white label partners. Of course, it doesn't cost anything to become a white label partner, to help them resolve their short-term cash flow crisis. Through specialized mentoring and support, we'll work with white label partners to ensure they earn a minimum of $100,000 in the month of June. Guaranteed. And again, there's no cost to be a white label partner. We're not selling you something or not saying, okay, sign up and you're going to have to buy leads or anything like that. There's just literally no strings attached. So there's no cost to sign up as a white label partner. How does this work? Why is it possible? Well, it's important to begin with understanding that what you and I offer is what almost every small business wants: access to capital, right? And with the access to capital program through the white label partner distribution channel, the client's paying nothing up front. They're getting their first tranche, their first round of funding in typically they're getting an approval within 24 to 48 hours. They're getting funded within the first 5 to 7 days. And that's putting $2,500 in your pocket, plus whatever performance fee. We'll talk about that in a moment. So what's included in this campaign for June? Well, we want to make sure that you remain compliant. White label partners are committed professionals. They have a goal of helping at least 8 clients a month, 2 a week on average, 8 a month. And so we want to make sure that you hit that number, because if you hit that number, we're at the $100,000 threshold. We'll get more to the dollars and cents in a moment. We'll make sure that you have your client agreement set up. Well, why is that important? As a white label partner, the client is contracting with you and they're promising to pay you at least $10,000. Now, that's based upon the deposit and based upon the performance fee. They pay nothing up front. And even if they quit, they still promise to pay you at least $10,000. So as long as we're generating the volume of at least 2 a week, on average 8 a month, you are on track for $100,000. You could do this for 1 month in June, and maybe that gets you the cash flow you need to go pursue other dreams and ideas. Or maybe say, well, I could do this on a very part-time basis and keep doing it. It doesn't matter. I would just suggest let's try it for June to at least get the cash flow crisis solved. It also includes assistance with the sales cycle. The sales cycle starts with getting leads, reaching out to the leads, and then converting or closing the leads. And then we want to get these clients funded quickly. We want to get the clients funded quickly because that's what they want, that's what they expect, and that's how you get paid. So typical clients are going to get 4 to 7 cash funding offers within about 24 hours. And then their first tranche financing, they get paid, they get the funding wired to them. Typically, if it's a line of credit, it could be a little bit different, but normally it's wired to them from the lender, and then they're paying you the deposit plus the performance fee. So as far as dollars and cents, we keep talking about making 100,000 in June, and some people just roll their eyes and think, well, that's not possible. Well, understand a couple things. You have to have the right type of business vehicle to make a large amount of money. If you and I just wanted to go do dog sitting and we plan to make 100,000 in June, I don't know we could scale that large in that short a period of time. But if you're generating on average $12,000 to $15,000 per client, and we're giving away something free in the sense that up front they pay nothing and it solves a crucial problem they have, access to capital, it becomes very reasonable and very doable if you implement. And the point here is we want to provide you the extra support to make sure that you're successful, guaranteed. So when clients enroll, and they enroll by signing up for the white label access to capital, so you get to control the terms, and we talked more about that yesterday. But the bottom line is the client has no upfront cost, and they get a $100,000 guarantee. So they know by signing up for this no upfront cost program that as long as they comply, they're going to get at least 100,000 out of it. Now, a lot of them will want a lot more than 100,000, and that's fine. We can get them whatever they qualify for, but at least 100,000. It's not a waste of their time. That's a pretty strong pitch to the marketplace, right? So for you, how do you earn the 100,000 in June? Well, for each client, you're going to get the 2,500 up front. And again, that's after they get their first tranche. So within the first week or so, plus or minus, client's not paying you anything up front. There's no advance fees to the client. Plus you're getting a performance fee of all the capital raised. And again, you get to pick what you want to set that at. I referenced 15% because I think it's the most common. You could go higher or lower. The lower you go on the performance fee, the more new clients you'll have to reach the 100,000, of course. But based upon these assumptions, all we need to do is enroll 8 clients. Think about this. So what's the pitch to the client? Hey, we can help you get at least $100,000 to start or grow a business. Guaranteed. There's no minimum credit score needed to enroll in the program. There's no minimum time in business needed to enroll in the program. Any industry is applicable as long as it's legal. You just need to be US-based business. You don't think with a reasonably competent outreach effort that we could find 8 clients a month to help with that value proposition? I would call BS if you think that you can't. There's millions of new businesses forming every year. There's already tens of millions of small businesses that exist. There's just no reason that we can't help 8 clients a month. And the end result to you is you earn 100,000. Now, will you get all 100,000 in June? Probably not. Probably not. We talked about this yesterday. So you should be able to get these upfront fees after they get their first tranche of financing. So 8 times 2,500 puts you at 20,000. So should you have 20,000 in cash deposits in the month of June? Yes, I think so. Should you have more than 20? So you might say, well, 20,000, Tom, that's not 100,000. Well, part of what you have is accounts receivable, right? Accounts receivables because they have signed a contract with you. They promised to work with you through the process to raise at least 100,000. They've promised to pay you whatever you selected, in this example, 15%. So you know you have $15,000, 15% of 100,000 coming to you. Part of that you should recognize in the first month, in this case, June. Some of it won't be raised in June because normally we need about 28 days, about a month, to build the loan package to go after the larger amount of capital. But you'll start to see it start to come in with the first tranche of finance. So how do you participate in this campaign? If it's something that you would like to try, where we're taking the risk, we're guaranteeing it, but to get you out of cash flow crisis, if it applies to you or to a given client, first, we need to be a white label partner. There's no cost to sign up as a white label partner. There are promises. There's bilateral promises, things that we promise to do, things that you promise to do, but there's no upfront cost. And you can do that on 4weekfunding.com if you've not done that already. And then we need to plug you into this dedicated team. They're calling themselves the elite team. I'm not on the support team, but I respect what they've done, and I've seen the good work that they've done previously. So you would just send them a text, they'll get you plugged in. And they did want me to let you know that they're going to make available evening and weekend time slots, not just during the day, for those of you that just don't have time during the day. All right, so who has questions? Let me make it smaller. Who has questions, comments, concerns on these key concepts? I'll summarize and you can type them into the Q&A, if you will, like a chat box of Zoom. Number one point is there's a lot of people that are in a cash flow crisis. And typically it's difficult to borrow money when you're in a cash flow crisis. Is it possible? It is possible. There's some sources that it'll still work. But in general, if we're having a cash flow crisis, we need to probably figure out some way to generate more earned income, in addition to our desire to go borrow money and take on debt. And so you're going to have some entrepreneurs that their business can't flip the switch, can't operate yet because they don't have the minimal capital to get started, or whatever the circumstances or excuses may be. This is a possible solution for them. So number one, we're going to help people resolve a cash flow crisis in June in a significant way. Secondly, we revisited the very important concept, I'm going to call it the Joseph rule, of the 3 C's, right? You have to understand that if you want to borrow money, there's the rule, the 3 C's. You need to either have credit, business or personal, collateral, and or capacity, which is known as cash flow. You have to have at least one of the 3. The more you have, the better, but you have to have at least one of the 3. And what we're doing here is addressing the capacity, the cash flow issue that a lot of people have. Because once you have the cash flow coming in, you got the deposits going into the bank, a lot easier to borrow money and borrow more money. You could have someone that has really great credit, but if they have limited capacity, they're going to have less borrowing power than someone that has average credit but high income, because there's just a mathematical formula of what can the person afford to pay back. So we revisited our June 22 campaign to help white label partners generate at least 100,000. Obviously, there's no cost to become a white label partner, nor for the campaign. We covered what's included, which is really managing the sales cycle, if you will. We've broken down where the dollars come from. There's no mystery, right? Clients are paying you based upon the results they get. They're not coming out of pocket. It's funded just like a realtor, right? Like Joseph. Does Joseph go say, oh, I'll sell a house for you, but write me a check right now? No, Joseph says, I'll sell the house for you and I'll take 6% of the transaction. So that's essentially what you're doing. You're getting paid 2 different ways as a white label partner, $2,500 up front, as well as a performance fee that you pick. Now, some of you are picking a 6, and I think this is what maybe Joseph does. I think he does a 6%. Joseph, if you can text and correct me if I'm wrong, I think he does a 6% performance fee, very low, because that's what people are used to paying in the real estate market. But again, others of you like Mark goes 20%. So it's up to you what you want your performance fee to be. The end goal is we want to work with white label partners. We want more white label partners, but we want compliant white label partners. And part of that compliance is we don't want to dabble. We want to help at least 8 clients a month. That's the promise that we made to you. And frankly, that's the promise you made to us. And so that's the plan. But the reward is outstanding, right? If we can help just 8 clients a month, that translates into $100,000 a month in income. Part of that will be cash recognized. Part of that will be receivables that roll over to the next month. But my goodness, that creates cash flow. That creates a strong bank statement, a good bank rating. It improves your balance sheet. There's just all kinds of reasons to have positive cash flow. So who has questions, comments, concerns? I'll make it a bit smaller so we can see the screen on the June campaign. If you want to participate, fine. If you don't, it doesn't really matter to me, but we certainly want to properly support our existing white label partners. And secondly, invite others who are not hitting their numbers. So looking for feedback. Who has questions, comments, concerns on the June campaign? Alfred, April, Ben, Bernard, Charles, Doug, Frank. All right, Frank's asking what credit score is needed. It depends upon the source of capital, Frank. There are different sources of capital. Some do not look at credit at all. That's what we're talking about, the different 3 C's. Some only look at business credit, and in general, they're looking for around a Paydex score of 80. Some use, like SBA uses the FICO SBSS, and you need about a 165 FICO. So Frank, your question is good, but there's not a simple answer. There's different sources of capital, and each source has its own underwriting criteria. That's why we go through the 4 modules to build the loan package out, to figure out the strengths and weaknesses of the client, and then make sure that we're going after the capital. Frank has a second question. What's the minimum income? There is no minimum income necessary. Because Frank, as I just described, there are different sources of capital, and different sources of capital have different underwriting criteria. Some of them look at capacity, some of them don't. Some of them only look at collateral, some of them look at credit. For someone like yourself, Frank, you're a 6-digit earner already, so you're going to qualify for just about anything that you want. But for those folks that aren't as fortunate as you, that's not cash flowing so well, that's exactly why we're talking about this topic today, to help people resolve the cash flow crunch that they may have, which helps them pay their bills, but also helps them improve their borrowing capacity. Thank you, Frank, for those questions. Who else has questions, comments, concerns on the June campaign? Questions on the 3 C's? All right, Doug's asking about credit and the 2 types of credit. So you're right, Doug. So there's business credit and personal credit. When we take clients through the 4 modules, we want to help them build the credit worthiness under their EIN, the business credit, so they can get capital, they can get funding, they can get financing under the business credit. And so we're successful doing that. We'll help them get normally at least $10,000 under their EIN, under their business credit, actually during the first 30 days. And that's above and beyond what we're talking about here with the first tranche financing. Frank has another question. What about clients that don't pay? Well, so that's a great point. And that could happen. So if you have a client that signs your white label client agreement and then they don't pay, well, first you want to figure out why they didn't pay. Is there confusion? Do they not understand? Or is it just a blatant disregard? We've got to figure out why they're not paying. But normally what you would do then is, you always want to invoice them, so it's clearly identified, hey, you owe money and here's what you owe it for. And then in some cases, you're right, Frank, sometimes you have to escalate it. And so if people don't pay as agreed, then you can send them to collections, you can sue them, you can sell the debt. There's different ways. But I guess invariably that could happen. But so much financial information about them that they would be kind of goofy to not pay you, and you have an executed agreement. So it's just going to become more expensive if they don't pay, because they're going to be responsible for court costs and collection costs. All right. And Jeanette's asking about flyers and that. Yes, absolutely. And so we'll get you plugged into Jeanette to the white label support team, and they can assist you with all of the resources and developing campaigns. I really like the approach of not just going after a shotgun approach, but let's identify who your target market is, identify leads within that target market, and then reach out to them using language, terms, context that's relevant to them. But absolutely, Jeanette. All right, so Pierre asked a good question. He asked, once the loan package is completed, what are the next steps for the clients? So the first step for the client is to sign up with you. The second step is we want to get them their first tranche of financing, get them some working capital, and then get them money so you're getting paid. Then we go through the 4 modules. We work on building out their business plan and their business credit and their business financial statements, and pull it all together in module 4. And so then at that point, then we can assess, all right, based on the client's mitigating circumstances, what type of capital is best for their circumstance? Do they meet that underwriting criteria now? If so, then let's apply and go to funding immediately. If not, let's resolve any deficiencies that exist. But that's the best way, Pierre, I could explain the process. All right, so we got a question. Will the client incur hard inquiries on their personal credit when they apply for business capital? It depends upon the source of capital. You know, different sources of capital have different underwriting criteria. Some of them do not look at personal credit at all. Some of them do. Some will only do a soft inquiry for a pre-approval, but then a hard inquiry upon formal application. So a lot of the questions I'm getting this morning are good questions that you might hear from clients, but what you always have to go back and remember is there are different sources of capital, and they each have their own underwriting criteria. So there's not simple answers for simple questions, because the answer is it depends. That's why we go through the 28-day process, the 4 modules, to assess the client's strengths and weaknesses, and then making sure that we're going after what they best qualify for. Okay, any other questions this morning on how we can help, you and I, how we can help together resolve a cash flow crisis in June? All right, April's asking about overrides, and you're right. We have the regional vice president role. Doesn't cost anything to be an RVP. We just got to get you with Scott Stroud, our chief marketing officer. He will set you up a landing page, and then you can bring other white label partners in, and doesn't cost you anything to be an RVP. And then you make 2.5 points as an override from that. And we're going to actually focus on that discussion tomorrow. So we'll dig more into that tomorrow. But yes, absolutely true. You can recruit white label partners. We're not MLM, not network marketing, but there are override commissions. All right, who has other questions? All right, Charles got a question about, going back to what was Frank's original question about clients not paying. So yeah, so on occasion, you'll probably run into the fact that some clients won't pay as agreed. So what do we do to protect you? First of all, you have a written client agreement with the client that states their obligations. And so the client agreement is bulletproof to start with. Then you have a couple different ways to resolve it. So the client owes you money, but they've not paid. So as I briefly summarized before, the 3 main resolution options. Number 1 would be to send them to a collection agency. The collection agency reports negative often on their personal and business credit profiles. That mucks up their ability to borrow money, and then they can seek to set up a payment plan. And usually collection agencies don't charge you anything up front. They'll just take a piece of the action of what they collect. So that's one option. Another is litigation, and that's what we do most often is litigation. And I can tell you, we're at 100%. Every case that we've taken to court, every motion that's been made, we've won every case, because these agreements are freaking strong, and that's the agreement that you have. So if you choose to litigate, I can't say it's 100%, but it's damn close to 100%. And it gets really expensive for them, because now they're going to pay you what they already owed you, plus court costs, plus late fees, and so forth. So that would be the second way to remedy if someone doesn't pay as agreed. The third option would be to just simply sell the debt. And there are debt buyers. We had a conversation with a law firm last evening that is going to buy some of our non-performing debt. So there are debt buyers out there that will buy debt agreements where people haven't fulfilled what they promised to do, and then they go collect for you. So you just get paid up front, you wash your hands of it. And so we're in the process, I think probably this week we'll sell $6 million of non-performing debt to the law firm I mentioned. All right, so Jermel asked, I signed up as a white label. Oh, someone wants to switch. That's fine. So some people sign up as a white label partner and they say, oh, it's not the right fit. Understand, text this number, let them know, they'll work with you. So they'll have to unwind your white label agreement and then they can plug you in as a referral partner. So same highlighted number to resolve that. And our last question today, what if the client asks what banks or credit unions that we work with? Well, we don't work for Bank of America or Wells Fargo or Chase. We're technical advisors. And so we can work with any bank or credit union. Now, of course, there's some lenders that we work with more frequently than others, but we're not some closed network that, we got a name drop, Bank of America. Well, can we get funding for the client through Bank of America? Yeah, if they qualify. Can we get it for them through Chase or Wells Fargo or name any other bank? So the secret to the sauce isn't some bank relationship, which we have those, but it's much more about getting the client credible on paper. See, that's what it ultimately takes. That's what you and I do, is we help clients become credible enough on paper that they get approved. Now, Frank's point is correct. Different banks, different lenders have a different appetite for different types of deals. Some will do restaurants, some won't. Some will do trucking companies, some won't. Some will do startups, some won't. Some will do a business in some states, but not in other states. So yeah, there's a matrix that we follow, but this isn't about naming off a bank. It's about getting the client credible enough on paper to be approved. All right, well, thanks everyone. We'll see you back tomorrow morning, and tomorrow morning's discussion is on the overrides that you can make by bringing on white label partners. But I'll give you the teaser. It's just simply, it's 2.5 points. So for every white label partner you bring on, if you're RVP, which costs you nothing, you make $2,500 from each client they bring in. If they're remaining compliant, bring in 8 clients a month, then you're making around $20,000 of override for each white label partner. But we'll go into that tomorrow. That's tomorrow's topic, but it's worth hearing. All right, thanks everyone. We'll see you tomorrow morning. Have a good day.